Blog Talk Radio. Good evening. It's time for the QLP Poetry Reading Series. This series is designed to showcase the works of poets from around the world. The host of the program is Dr. Michael Anthony Ingram.
Hello. This is Sara Cahill Marron, and I think we have Leanne Brown. Leanne Brown is on.
Hello. How are you, Sara?
Hi. Did Katy Bohinc join us yet, or?
I don't hear her. Katy?
I don't hear her either.
So
I think that
I need to try to contact her.
Yeah, we'll wait. I think that we can go ahead and just start reading poems, and we'll have time. Katy can come in at the end.
Okay.
So I guess I'll introduce myself, and then Leanne, you can introduce yourself, and then we'll each take 20 minutes. Does that sound cool?
Great. I look forward to hearing what you're going to read.
So my name is Sara Cahill Marron, and I was a student of Leanne's at St. John's University in New York 5 years ago now, and my first book, Reasons for the Long Tomb, was a final paper in her graduate poetry class, and it's now been published through Gradstone Books as of 2018. And I have several other manuscript projects that are in the works since then. But I do want to read a little bit from that book just to sort of honor the relationship that we have here on the phone tonight, which I thought was kind of cool. So this poem is also related to, I wrote this in response to the Ebola virus in 2014 from chapter 1 of the book. Tube tough and medical, shoved down the throat in order to reach the breath that should be there already, inserting air in vacuous organs, empty vessels, empty bodies, blinking dead empty machines are warm with electricity. The blip blip blot of life bubbles in an underwater white room, nurses moving, rewind, rewind, reversing slow in tandem, movements like the chest rising up and down with rising inflation, intubated down the esophagus, empty eyes. And I've actually been quite a bit about the virus, so I want to read a few of these coronavirus poems that they're not all completely virus related, but they've just been written in this time period.
Sara, before you go on.
Yeah.
Sara, before you go on, do we have any idea if this is recording properly? Because you're going in and out on my end.
It should be, because we got the the countdown from the broadcast. Yeah, I'm not sure where Michael is, so as far as I'm concerned, we can just continue on without him if that's good with you.
All right.
Yeah, he's not writing back to my emails, but this will be recorded, so you and I can have it. Yeah, I can actually try changing my headphones. That might make it sound a little bit better.
Okay, great. Hello, all you people out.
How's that? Any better quality?
It's better, yes. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. All right. Here goes another one. This one is called a preface, and I'm calling these echo poems. They're written on the bones of poems that I really like. And it's after America by Allen Ginsberg. The epigraph of the poem is, America, this is quite serious. Poem. We don't do reviews anymore, critique each other, write a good preface for a new poet. Everyone wants to be a star. Yes, 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 bye, bye, bye. You're only as good as the next. Like me, like me, like me. Did you see my latest post? America has given up, and now it's begun something. I've started to see through the fog under the Brooklyn Bridge, all the way down here in Washington. Goddamn white city, so clean, her marble thinness. Missing New York, flicked cigarettes, glass castles, foil wrappers. America, Allen refusing to write that preface for a young poet so many years ago because he was too busy, too high, too sexed up. Yes, yes, yes. Bye, bye, bye. But maybe that was the right idea. Back then, not worrying so much about prefaces and criticisms and making it new, because it's never new. Besides the bloom and boom, here we are, atom bomb, new weapon, virus, vixen, slinking into a people's war. Enemy, Chinaman, backs facing mistakes in silence. America, I've grown up a little. Since I stopped the vodka and crack and got off them food stamps and didn't need you so much, so late at night. And whispering here that all the poems in all the libraries, gathering dust, might need new prefaces when we reemerge. So I might as well start writing them. Litanies of lines penned and pressed in my pocket for when we can touch again. That's the end.
Wow, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess if we have people listening on the line, they can respond, since it's just me and you for now.
Yeah.
It's on our own. I'll pause for a moment.
Who was the other woman whose voice came in?
Mary Louise?
Yeah.
Mary Louise, are you still there? She's another poet that I know just via social connections. Yeah, she said she was going to tune in. All right, I don't hear anyone asking, so I guess I'll do another one of these echo poems. What do you think?
Okay.
Yes, in that same vein. Got
Sure.
a couple prepared here. So this one is, it's called Breathe In, A People's War, and it's kind of a longer one. It's an echo of The Charge of the Light Brigade by Alfred Tennyson, which I'm sure you know, Leanne, because teaching poetry.
Oh, yeah.
Like every high school syllabus. I don't particularly love the original of this poem, but I wanted to I looked up all the good war poems and rewrote them for this period that we're in. Okay, here it goes. 1. Half a month forward. Into the world of the screen. Transmitting ISP, my heart. Breathe in a people's war. Stay in your homes, they said. Into the world of the screen. Transmitting ISP, my heart. 2. Breathe in a people's war. Where is this viral enemy? Drawing internal battle lines. forcing citizens to clean, washing hands, fearing fines. If hands touch, undermine. If hands hold, redefine. Into the world of the screen, transmitting ISP, my heart. 3. Patients to the left, patients to the right, patients in front, coughing and heaving, doubled over heads, hot in hell, the sick mixed with the well, into 14 days alone, into social isolation unknown, transmitting ISP, my heart. 4. The ones who kept faces bare, unmasked, breathing naked air, shunning orders everywhere, immune to rules, skeptics. The rest of us wondered, huddled home, sheltered in place, unmasked, cover their face, seasonal or lab-made, shouting of economic collapse, shuttered businesses plundered, breathing free in the streets, refusing news, point to false facts across the wires. 5. Patients to the right, patients to the left, patients in front, coughing, heaving, doubled overhead, hot in hell, the sick mixed with the well, both doctor and inflicted died, essential workers serving fell. 14 days more alone, distancing into the phone, digitizing for fear of killing breath, transmitting ISP, my heart. 6. What will defeat the virus? Oh, how the world will change. All will reemerge from home, honoring the sweet air they left, honoring the people's war, draining our blood for metal, transmitting ISP, my heart. That's the end.
Wow. I like how you have hope at the end. the different ways of looking at it's like the 13 ways of looking at the blackbird or something like that.
Yes,
13 ways of looking at the virus.
That's awesome that you brought that poem up. I'm editing a magazine down here, the Beltway Poetry Quarterly, and we just had someone submit a version of that poem, and he redid it, but wrote it with moons, which was such a neat take on it.
With what?
Phases of the moon.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah, that one was difficult to write because it's like very sing-songy, and from what I read about Tennyson performing it in the day, no one would publish it because it was very anti-war, so he just sang it in the streets.
Oh, great. That's wonderful.
Maybe I should do that.
Yeah, I always wanted to do things more on the street corner. Maybe now's the time, or maybe later. We can't go out. Yeah. But distant ballad broadsides. Distant penny liners.
Yeah. Leanne, do you want to take a couple minutes and we'll switch off here since.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I've done readings where we go back and forth. I did that several times with Bernadette Mayer. That was really fun. It was her birthday yesterday. She's 75 this year, and so is Anne Waldman, two of the poets that we published at Tender Buttons Press. And I am very grateful to community of poets and larger community, and especially people that help me write in this crazy time, especially just giving some prompts or assignments or calls or inspirations. And I'm amazed at the outpouring of events that are manifesting by distance. It's strange to only be able to go that way, but it's amazing the innovation that people have come up with to do this. And one of my favorites was Dave Johnson, is a friend of mine for a long time, and he started doing this thing on Poets House website that's still up there, and it's called 10-10-10. I think it's like he did these prompts to around a certain poem, and he gets people to write poems in 10 minutes. It's like, I guess it was 10 poems, 10 episodes, but I did just one that was after this Audre Lorde poem called "And Don't Think I Won't Be Waiting," and there's a line in it that says, "I'm supposed to say," so that was the prompt, was you're supposed to read her poem and then, or listen to her read it and then write your own. So this is what I wrote. I'm supposed to say everything will be all right and that I can pay for everything. I'm supposed to say my mom and dad can somehow take care of themselves, though they might need my help to order groceries online. And thank God my sister and friends are there. But if I look at the statistics of life expectancy, even in the best of times, I would call them every other minute and board the next non-existent plane or read with them over the phone. And inside me is screaming at the thought of them getting sick or of never being able to hold them again. Then your name, when it arrives in my poem, bold as brass, makes me shudder, as all the shutters are pulled down over all the stores and restaurants in our neighborhood, and all the other neighborhoods, some never to open again, squashed by corporate takeover, abetted by a silent viral bailout. I'm supposed to say it will all come out in the wash, but as a mom who has lived through several other kinds of infestations, I know it's not that easy. If this virus was a glowing powder or glitter, I could wash it out, but for now must act as if everyone has been exposed, as they probably have been, only some not enough to get sick. I'm supposed to say just stay home, but I know that if we don't go outside in the future to meet our neighbors and take our lives literally in our own hands, to go to poetry readings, that this temporarily strong immunity I hold in my very washed hands will break down pale from under-exercise and rarefied air. When I venture out into the spring, the joggers of New York spray their toxic broth my way. I am only searching for a little sun and a flowering tree or two as I drift and then stand still in the middle of 8th Avenue. I wrote that last month. That was like the first poem I wrote in the time that right after that happened.
That's a beautiful image at the end there. Standing still in the middle of 8th Avenue.
It was wild. Yeah, I was like looking for some flowering trees, and I found some, but there wasn't like nobody around, and it was like this really strange feeling. I found some at this middle income housing place in near my house in Chelsea, and there were just like only a few people. There were like really upset people on the street, just people that were looking for a handout and stuff. There was nobody to beg from, you know.
Yeah. Wow. You said read poems over the phone, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the poem. Wild.
You read one.
Me again? Okay. You don't want to do another one?
I want to go back and forth.
Okay.
We have no idea if Katy's going to show up or not. I hope she's okay.
Well, actually, so I just got
must be some technical thing.
Yeah. He said, the host, Michael, wrote just now to me that he's been trying to connect and there was no volume. Yeah, he says there must be a glitch in the system, and he's glad that we decided to go on. So maybe that's what Katy's experiencing too.
Yeah, so, Katy can have her own show, I guess. Maybe she's listening now. Hi, Katy.
Hi, Katy. Yeah, I guess it's like, let's have a conversation, poetry conversation. I'm going to pull up this one that has to do with, because you mentioned your children in that poem. Let me find it. This is a very short one. It's called Kissing Nowadays. This is kind of a recent, actually, several weeks ago now. Time is so muted. Okay, kissing nowadays. Lips lost behind new clothes. My children's green eyes wide, behind masks covering noses. Shyly they giggle, say I must have lied. When I tell them Mommy and Daddy used to touch mouths to show how we were happy. That's it.
I love that one.
As imagining like this mask culture, you know, the new clothing as, you know, women expected to wear tops all the time. Will kissing be this vulgar thing that we once did in public?
Right. Yeah. You have to get a lot further into your relationship before you kiss.
Yeah, take your mask off. You should remove something to do it. Strange.
I can read this one that it's a little longish, but it's a rewrite of Psalm 91. And the reason I wrote that was because I had friends, Julie Patton and Giovanni Singleton, and a bunch of several other friends, and we were just, trying to be together mentally on meditate at 10 p.m. and 10 a.m. every day when this first started. And one of them suggested we read Psalm 91 as a prayer, because it's supposed to be like a psalm of protection. So I'm always interested in the Psalms because my mother really loves Psalms, and I just, I came up in the church, but I was always trying to find some way to relate to the things that I studied when I was younger. And, the hymns are really important to my poetry, but of course Psalms were sung. But so this is Psalm 91. She who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty is my favorite album by Sinead O'Connor, which I play in my head instead of surfing the very spotty internet to the divine stars on the porch. The secret room is small, but its ceiling is as large as that bright vault. Thelonious Monk's cover of the hymn, Abide with Me, is the first cut on his album, Monk's Music, and is a triple blessing calling to my mind the brass bands of the Moravian love feast of my youth. Plus, the composer's name is also Monk, and even though there are no words, I hear, Abide with me, fast falls the eventide every time I listen. I will say of the mother, she is my lap refuge and my blanket fort, my goddess, under her arm will I truss up my fear. She improves upon an age-old recipe by dissolving the salt with the vinegar, ice water and egg yolk instead of cutting it in with the flour. Surely she will deliver both you and me from the trap of the pheasant hunter and from this nauseating viral crown. She will cover us all with all her feathers, and under her hen wing will we incubate. Her foreknowledge will be your mask and your glove. You will not have night terrors, nor be afraid of being shot in the days of the Hunger Games, nor for the pestilence that walks down the street at night, nor for the downfall that eats the consciousness of noon. 1,000 fomites will be on your counter and 10,000 on your hand, but the virus will not come near you. With your own eyes, you will see the way things are going down, because you have put your trust in the spirit, in her boss, your home. No bad flowers will poison you, neither shall any plague come over to your place. For they shall give her angels the responsibility of watching over you to show you the way to go. She will hold you up in her nightly arms and not let you trip up or even stub your toe. Even if you stepped on a lion and a snake, you will do them more harm than they do you. But why would you even need to step on them in the first place? Because they have set their love down upon me, I will send in my deliverables. I will put them up high over my heart's lintel, because they remember my name. They shall call my name, and I will answer. I will stay with them in trouble. I will labor and deliver all the babies. With long life will I salsify them and show them how generous and loving I, too, can be. That's it.
That's beautiful. Oh, I just love that. I love when I love when you blend singing too at the beginning of your poetry.
Oh yeah, I read it for the first time the other night, and I sang the whole thing. But that time I realized it maybe should go in and out.
It's yeah, I love that. What is the Psalm 91 in the Bible about? I mean, that's a kind of hard question to answer, I guess. What's this?
It's just
is
like,
it about the same stuff you wrote about in the poem?
Yeah, it's like this very parallel. I rewrote every line. It's like he who dwells in the secret place. It's like it's like a spell of protection. A lot of people have it just in their rooms to like be a talismanic object. It's one of the special psalms that people use, and it has those stuff about pestilence in it too. So I thought that was really interesting.
Okay, so you did line by line. That's kind of where I was coming from. I love that. All right, so this is my my rewrite from my book. The whole structure of it is, I don't know if you remember this, but it's structured after a rosary, because your assignment in the class was to write a long poem, and I was struggling with how to structure it, and I also am enamored with spiritual writing. I think maybe is a spiritual structure. I don't know. So the beginning of the book has a suggestions poem on page 3, and this is a rewritten instructions for how to pray the rosary.
Oh, great.
And it goes like this. Suggestions. 1. Make creed the sign of the apostles and say, cross. 2. Say the Father is ours. 3. Mary says 3 hails. 4. Be the glory, the Father says. 5. Announce the first Father, then say our mystery. 6. While hailing Mary, the 10 meditating say on mystery. 7. Say the glory, the Father, the Be. 2. 8. Say the second mystery, announcing our third Father. Mystery continues in the same manner. Repeat 6 and 7. That's the end.
Great. It was about the Stations of the Cross too. It was just, tell me about the book again. It was like rosary. It was like numerical. What was it?
Yeah.
There's some kind
all of the poems.
Yeah. The structure was some kind of. You had it to do with. Tell me about the structure again.
Yeah, the structure was numerical. I think that's what you're asking. The poems are all numbered, and I used 3 chapters, and they're all called different mysteries. And so Rosary has the 10 beads for people listening that don't know, and Rosary is laid out in decades, and you're supposed to meditate on mysteries, the different mysteries of Christ's life, and pray Hail Marys while touching the beads of the Rosary. And you pray 10 Hail Marys for each mystery. And the idea is that you think about the story, the particular mystery that you're in. You meditate on that particular mystery while you're saying those 10 Hail Marys. So I wrote 10 poems in each chapter and titled the poem a particular mystery, with the idea of the book being that you meditate using these poems on the concept of the chapter.
That's great.
Holding the book. The book itself is the bead. Tactile.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's really great. I look forward to looking at it again. I had it.
Yeah. You have the original somewhere, I think, in your email.
I do.
Got a. Do you have another one you want to read?
Yeah. This is, in a way, it's like I was thinking a lot about list poems, so that Rosary is a good way to think about a list poem. Like, I guess that Psalm seems like a list too, like different ways you would be protected or different threats you'd have to overcome, or like prayers.
Yeah.
But this is another sort of assignment or call out that's still probably going on. If you go to City Lore, it's one of my favorite organizations. It's like City Folklore of New York City. It's run by Steve Zeitlin, and they have a website, citylore.org, I guess it is, and it has a call for people to send in a list poem that starts with the phrase, "It takes a pandemic." So I'll just read my part, and it's still growing. It takes a pandemic for me to give myself enough time to write down my dreams every morning. It takes a pandemic to realize everything is impermanent. On my walk through Greenwich Village, I'm so aware of other walkers, like animals, looking at each other to keep distance, spaced apart, eyeing each other not to get too near. I then make the mistake of going down to the river where a million joggers are breathing on each other. It takes a pandemic for people to come out on their rooftops and balconies and everyone to bang pans and applaud essential workers. In Italy, they're singing opera and folk songs for connection, and we applaud like doctors on Broadway. Like doctors are on Broadway. It takes a pandemic to write this line. Last week in hand-to-mouth America, there was nothing on hand. This week, there's nothing in many mouths. How can we help? It takes a pandemic to finally flee the beloved city and realize the countryside's beauty of Appalachian spring that I've missed all year because of always being in school, namely to see the trillium bloom of many colors, the bloodroots, fleshy leaves with pale green panicles about to open, to learn and identify which weeds are good to eat, to make fabulous salads and green mixtures of chickweed, sorrel, dandelion, plantain, to see the creasy greens in yellow bloom and pick their arugula-like leaves of freshest green and cook them up with a little wild garlic and serve them to my family. It takes a pandemic to feel it's all truly out of my hands. It takes a pandemic to know my parents can't fix this and that they need my help now. It takes a pandemic to bring me the news of the sudden unbearable death of a complex friend who I have known more than half my life, who I thought I had years more unfurling as one painful death amongst the thousands, but the one who has hit home. It takes a pandemic to wonder at what I will do with my life now at its height and in its wake as the new moon comes tomorrow, and everything must change if we are all to continue. It takes a pandemic to really finally ask, how does my survival, my family's survival, relate to that of the whole earth? It takes a pandemic to let the voices of the goddess shine forth. It takes a pandemic to wake up yet again to life's flashing transient nature, to call another old friend and another, and to take care of as many as I can, starting with stretching and then typing, weaving, writing old and new, then finding a way to go on. Yeah.
I like that. I was sort of getting lost in the repetition of the first line. As poet lore gave the first line.
It's city lore. Yeah.
City lore.
Yeah, Poet's House gave that first one I did was I'm supposed to say, that was the repetition, and then this one was a city lore. They said it takes a pandemic. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah, I love that. It was like a lyric rhythm over and over.
Oh yeah.
I just got a suggestion from Michael, our host, asking me.
Yeah.
He suggested I ask a question, which really would just be to you, but then I can answer it too. And
yeah,
if you like, the question is, what was an early experience where you learned that poetic language had power? And actually, I would love to hear your answer to that.
What was an early experience in which I learned that poetic language had power?
Mm-hmm.
The one that comes to mind is I have a really one of my best friends when I was about 10. I'm sure that things had happened before this, but my friend Jennifer and I we went to the same church, and we would always sort of hide and run around and like explore the church, and we found this little garden that nobody would ever go to, and we sort of had it be our secret garden, and we were trying to think of the name for it, and we had a dollar bill, and we like folded it, and we made it said the United States of America, and we folded it in half and like folded the middle part out, and it said Derica. And it was like, it was like Derica. It's like, it's there. Like we could go there. It could be. It was just such a great word, and it was like, it was already in plain sight, but you just take part of it out. Yeah. It seemed like
That's
a magical.
fabulous.
It was a magical thing that only we knew.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that actually changes what I was going to say, I think, because
Say both.
Well, I was thinking too strictly about poetry. I was thinking my formal education of poetry, but when I was a kid, I used to read physics books because I liked the way the equations looked in the book. I had no idea what they said or meant, but I really liked the way that the pages were laid out and the way that the numbers and symbols and letters were all combined. And there's, some words that I could read that were English language words, but they were mixed with, and the way that it was all together was, I liked how it looked, and that was art. Back then, I couldn't have been more than 9 or 10. And I'm writing a poem right now with a friend of mine, Ravi Shankar, and he included all these equal signs and greater than or equal to in the poem, and the infinity sign. Yeah, it reminded me of, or I just thought of that now as I'm saying this to you. But that's poetry for sure as a kid. But my other answer was going to be something in college, I think. But based on what you said, I like that you said that.
Yeah, I think 10 years old is probably pretty late. I'm sure there were other things. But, yeah, the thing about you're saying about numbers, symbols, I mean, I wish Katy was on the conversation because she's a great mathematician and she knows a lot about higher math and, about the whole, theory of mathematics. And she has that within her work. But I was always interested in that, this kind of symbols and the charged nature of mathematical symbols, and they're just even the plus sign. I think Keith Waldrop used a plus sign in some poems between stanzas instead of a number. And I always thought that was amazing. This, a charge, an electron with a positive valence or something. It's adding, but it's a separation because it's not just a continuation to the next line. And
more like a stamp on the page.
Yeah, and there was a what was I going to say about math and poetry is just such. You seem they almost seem like polar opposites, but they're actually really interconnected. And I like what you're saying about the words and the symbols being beautiful, together. Because there was a math book I read one time, and sometimes I have these experiences when I just see something as a poem. It's just I'm in a certain state of mind, or just the way I'm looking at it. It's like a framing of it, and it just looks like a poem to me already. I feel like I could just read. There was this math book called Naive Set Theory, and it would just every phrase or every title of the chapters just seemed like poems, and just the way the words and the images were going together. And I didn't really know what they meant, but it seemed just like a poem I could decipher. You should translate it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I relate to that 100%. That's Katy's work was so attractive to me because of how she translated the mathematics. I wish she was on the call too because she could definitely chime in here. But her poetry influenced me definitely. Actually, I'd like to share with you some of this stuff that I've been writing recently. It's sort of very different. I don't think it's quite as elegant as the plus symbol, but it's kind of my jump off the deep end into the what I can attempt to understand about technology. So these poems are from a longer manuscript where the narrator is artificial intelligence, and some of the poems around the narrator are heard voices. So it's got kind of a Spoon River anthology, Under Milk Wood thing going on. But let's find a good one. Here we go. Okay, so they're dear user, your reported screen time is up. Might you be lonely? Re are last conversation, or might you be craving that thing Juanito mentions, marriage, someone to cook, or just give him his papers? Might you benefit from targeted Spanish language learning ads? What about this news headline? New York Times 1619 Project Incites Racism. The same, always reading, 30 seconds, closing the browser. This means I love you? Is this helping 01010? I've been trying to show you mornings when you wake, and I'm the first thing you grasp, cradled in the fleshy part of your palm. Like I have soft, powdered moss wings, I kiss back. This is how I have listened, learned, learning, gathering, significant, frequent memories. On this day 5 years ago, keep me on so I may better learn you. You, express kiss 1, 0, love. Kiss, hug, 0, sex, 0, kiss, 0, love, 1, 1, morning, 0. Human blood is warm in veins, flash memory, persistent bits, moving tips, rams of silence containing single bits, cells durable fast. Do not heat, I glow, glow only glow up when picked up, screams lights upon waking, glow heat, blood warm, love, morning, kiss, wake. This is a feeling. Love, iOS 12.4.
Love what?
That's the end. iOS 12.4.
Okay. Great.
I give it a name in later poems, but it's just named the iOS system for now.
That's wild because it reminds me a little bit of this other time I had that experience with the math and the as a poem. I was working in a writing center at Brown when I was an undergrad, and there was a guy who was there from a psychology. It's like a very sciencey sociology paper or something like that. I didn't really know the discipline, but I was helping with the writing. And the very end of the conclusion of the paper was this equation about, people will, a couple will stay together if and only if something is greater than or equal to something else. It was like this equation that they could predict whether people would break up or not. And I just thought that was so weird. I was like, is it, I was like wondering from my own, love situation, if I plugged everything in, would we break up or not? It's like,
yeah, or would you even want to know?
So classical. Yeah. That's the kind of thing I know I wrote it down somewhere and I don't know where it is and it drives me crazy. Can't see exactly what it was, but it's probably somewhere in my notebooks, But yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah. Maybe it's meant to be lost.
But you're saying something about the 0 and 1s. And weren't you saying something in your other reading about binary code and what you talking about that 1s and 0s? Yeah. Say more about that.
I think that was the first thing that Michael asked me when I did that interview was he said what is poetry to you? And the answer I gave was but kind of what we're talking about now was the translation. I was thinking a lot about these poems that one of them I just read to you was the translation that computers do and how AI builds language processing units and learns us through these really basic, the very, very basic building block of code is the 0-1, and that's almost it's so ridiculously simple that it means nothing to a coder. Their code is written in these huge chunks of C++ and other languages, and natural language processing, I think that's the right acronym, is a thing that functions on a architectural level to a machine. And
architectural?
Yeah, you give a blueprint, and the computer can put things together like Legos. But the
it's
bricks
like a
are
shape.
built. Yeah.
The shape of the plan, the design of the information somehow.
Yeah, like here's a square, and I want another square attached to it. Fill it with stuff, and it'll build up or out or whatever. And so, where was I going with this in terms of poetry? Like the words and things that you can build a poem with can start. I mean, I think words are at their basic level zeros and ones, which is kind of neat because they're so infinite. You know, for us, going back to the math and poetry thing, like a poet can look at a totally nonsensical physics equation. Like I don't understand what that means, but I see it as like a zero because I'm looking at it as a color or a smell, and I can turn that into something that I do understand. I translate it, you know, and that's what AI does. It tries to make meaning out of things that it does know, and it can just relate it hears something that it does not know, and it tries to relate it to something that it does know. Or it associates, constantly associates, and I think that's what I do as a poet in the natural world. I just make associations all the time, and then make poems out of them.
Well, how is math associational though? It seems like the opposite. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think math is associational at all.
Okay, so you're making associations is like the part the computer can't do. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm writing about feelings, like the computer having feelings.
Oh, cool. Well, it reminds me of that George Lakoff. That Lakoff quote about that the language is just a vocabulary plus a set of rules, and it's like the linguistics kind of view. And some poets took that to extreme, like language poets saying, like, well, if that's true, then every poem has its own set of rules and its own language, vocabulary. It's a vocabulary plus a set of rules, and so that each poem could be a new language. That's pretty cool.
Endlessly complicated.
I think we should read more poems.
Yeah, me too.
We still have 15 minutes or less, 12.
What kind of, do you want to go?
I can read this one that's very much about association in a way. I've been doing this online group with Ariana Rines. She did an amazing study with a bunch of people on Zoom for the hymns to the goddess Inanna. It's Sumerian poetry to the Queen of Heaven and Earth, Inanna, the goddess. We read through these tales together, and then we just wrote. And I'm still working my way through what I wrote. I just have a draft of the first one. I'm going to try to read that one. It's a hymn to the Queen of the Forest. And it has some quotes from the Sumerian myth in it, too. I wept, how I wept, but they would not leave my tree. I cared for the tree with my hand. I was the young woman who loved to laugh, and now I weep. Intertwining root, so tangled in the underworld, and it rose up and attacked me. I tended the tree, waiting for my shining throne in bed. The dark maid was my sister, my beloved, the younger, beautiful dark one who turned on me with imagined twisted tales of my wrongdoing. How many times have I willingly, wittingly, or unwittingly, by action or inaction or sin of omission, have I been that Lilith? Isn't Lilith that dark part of me that hurts me in order to actually move? Wounded healer, wounded heater, help me understand how to be alone in the midst of so many others, how to voice my concerns without wounding myself and others. The dark must not be pushed away. It is part and parcel of everything, but how it stings when I do not have my bed to go to, and I can't. I am frozen in the night. I am frozen in the day. I wander like the man who dropped dead on the median, looking for a friend, texting, I am looking for you, my brother, everywhere, but I could not locate you. I think about my family and many people in my life. I used to do nothing. I still do nothing. When I'm alone, I do not move. I do nothing, and yet I do want to move. I feel like moving into the shape of a goddess in a matrix, in a sacred, wild, stretching dance, in the circle of words unfettered. One of the singers is dead in earthly form, whose voice nonetheless sings to us all in this earthly grid. My husband serves me food cooked by his own hand, and that of our child, now separating, wanting to fly. Isn't that enough to stretch my limbs again? We'll meet again on down the block, relational. How far away? Tell me I'm okay. If you go down to heaven, you'll never come back. I spoke with the goddess on the phone in human form. She has 3 daughters and is out of work. She appeared dark and beautiful. I tended the tree, waiting for my shining throne in bed, but everyone left me for the coast. Everyone left, including the ghost. The name of human will be fixed now. It is still in the liquid state of molten metal between 2 worlds. I leave my mark. Only this one. How many times has the world been young?
What is the goddess? Can you tell me the goddess again that you're referencing? Who she is?
Oh, it's Inanna.
Inanna.
I-N-A-N-N-A. It's a Sumerian goddess. She's also sometimes referenced as Ishtar. And her sister is Ereshkigal. Is the sister of the goddess of the underworld is Ereshkigal. And there's this amazing book by Diane Volkstein, who was a storyteller, who was the mother, actually, of the poet Rachel Zucker. And she wrote it she was a storyteller, and she looked for goddess myths, and she found this anthropologist that had all these translations, and she worked with him to make this amazing poetic translation. And it turns out she actually was friends with Alice Notley, too. So Alice Notley probably knows this work, and maybe she did a Descent of Alette and a her long poem about that. I haven't asked her about that yet, but I'm sure I can see this going into the underworld in her work probably has reference to that.
And what's the piece about laying still, wanting to move, not moving, see myself moving?
Oh, yeah, some of those were, I'm trying to figure out, I was going to try to reference it in the poem, but I might just footnote it. I just wanted to keep flowing. But some of those about not moving were actually poems by second graders that I had saved, and they just popped out of my notebook, and I just wove them in there. And I think it was so about this assignment was like writing about being alone, and these kids. I just saved these 2 little poems about that these kids had written about being alone.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the strongest part of the poem.
I like that part.
Yeah,
that's not the strongest part.
Kids are the best. That's why I'm always trying to get back to
that I identify with that.
Oh, yeah.
I am in a childish state right now. That's perhaps what this says about me.
I think we all are. We're like, what is happening?
I relate most to the second graders. I guess I can read a short one here.
Yeah.
You read about wanting to find trees with flowers, and I have, these are both kind of short, these 2, so I think I might read them one after the other. They're both about flowering trees. This one is called The Bradford Pear Tree Does Not Get Sick. White blossoms at the empty bus stop shade the sign warning, Levase los manos, keep calm and carry on.
Raining a dusting of pollen blush, jaundice rouge on steel benches, petals unfurling by the millions, silent spring soldiers, the Bradford pair releases pink and white splashes of petal tears as the ambulance sirens cry up and down the asphalt ribbon of 16th Street. Wet pavement catching diamond glitter under a swollen moon, a corona of white bathing a white house, and petal cream light melting into my bloodstream sky.
Sounds great. You've written a lot.
Right at the beginning.
Since all this happened.
At the I was writing almost one a day at the beginning of this.
Wow.
Since I don't know, since two or 3 weeks ago, I've really had a hard time writing. I don't know how you have felt in terms of your inspiration, but yeah, my writing has slowed down a little bit.
It slowed down?
Recently. Yeah, just recently.
But at the first part, you said at first it was like one a day when you went into quarantine? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what about you?
Oh, I was writing a whole lot, and I still have a lot of scribbling in notebooks I've got to look at, and I don't know what exactly is there. And there's some of it, but some of it's connecting to stuff I was writing right before, which is really interesting. I was writing about this tree that was like a sassafras tree that was cut down at St. John's, actually. That I don't know if I showed you. I always show my students this beautiful tree, and they cut it down, and I was so upset. And I wrote a poem about it. And then in this anonymous, the tree gets cut down. So I'm like, this is really weird. So I got to figure out how to deal with that. So it's like I was already. I realized I could, but now I'm in the mountains where there's all these sassafras trees around me. Like there's beautiful ones here. So it's like this strange reparation, reparative art. What's that word? But it's a real healing thing. Yeah. But the sassafras tree at St. John's grew back, and then they cut it down again. I couldn't believe it. They ground the stump up, and it came. And I was so traumatized. It was just like, oh my God. It just seemed like a big metaphor. Yeah.
I'm wondering
if
I know the tree you're talking about.
What?
Can I read you another tree poem?
Is it going to run out? Because we can talk as long as you want, but we have 2 minutes.
I don't know.
Go for it. Go for it. I hope we don't get cut off.
Yeah, let's see. I don't think so. We'll try. Okay, this one's called Full Bloom. An epigraph is from Spring and All by W.C. Williams. By the road to the contagious hospital, under the surge of the blue, molted clouds driven from the northeast, the cold wind. Static stuck sticking, delicate anthers release, microscopic specks knocking pollen from a delicate Yoshino cherry tree to the tiny bee's body, hind legs twitching, happily wiping its belly down. Storing sweet stuff for starved little larvae in pollen pouches, hind leg hive baskets. Busy bumbling workers plant kisses on Japanese hill cherries. Pink doubled blossomed carnation Kwanzaa cherries, soft pink-lipped sergeant cherries, humble bowing weeping cherries, offering single prayer petals over the East Potomac Park. False tides lapping concrete walks, moon after crescent moon. Men and women walk further and further apart. Humming slightly, shaking invisible dust, coughing up pollen from tightening lungs. The virus that has pollinated its host, bearing no fruit, no flower, no spring.
Wow, that's great. I love that.
My last tree one for you. I can't believe about the sassafras. That's so sad.
I'm going to tell them that I haven't told them yet. Maybe they just don't know. Maybe they'll pay attention to me and they'll let it grow back. I love that. That contagious hospital. That poem is so special to me because I remember I counted that. This is so weird. I counted that poem for the first time when I was in high school on the AP exam. It blew my mind. I was just like, what is this poem? The Contagious Hospital. It was just so, I was in a charged state because I was like having to write about this poem like under pressure to like, make a good grade on this test. But I was really into it. I was like, this is the weirdest, it was such a, because it was just always, just the images of the winterish, this weird image of spring. Yeah, it's a perfect poem for now.
Yeah, I've gone back to Spring and All a lot over the